There's always room for interesting creative approaches within anime. Sure, new and original stories are great to have, but if we're going to be part of the visual medium, let's see if we can use it to its utmost extent. And it's all very good to say the animation was good, but there's so much more to it, and in regards to Mob Psycho, a fuck ton more. With acclaimed animator Yoshimichi Kamada on staff as character designer, many of those who joined the project were fans of Kamada and regard him as an inspiration. Like My Hero Academia earlier this year, Mob Psycho featured many young new animators who have begun to make an impact already. Not only was the show enjoyed by those that watched it, but like Flip Flappers airing this season, it was something that these animators could get excited about as well. So let's revisit not just the animation of Mob Psycho episodes 2 to 12, but also the animation staff that turned it into something genuinely fantastic. There's many ways to approach a discussion on the animation of Mob Psycho. It's a creative show with a determined philosophy of fuck the rules, as shown in this cut from episode 2 where not even the line art is confident as it sways and wobbles uncertainly. Even traditional animation was replaced with complex paint-on-glass animation for an added surreal effect. Regardless of what you think of it, Mob Psycho is moving the medium forwards, and it will be used as an example of creative approaches taken within animation for years. There's always a lot of pressure to follow a great first episode, and even more so when you're following an episode directed by the series director Yuzuru Tachikawa and supervised by the character designer Yoshimichi Kamada. Even the animation director for the episode, Ayumi Yamada, tweeted that there was a lot of pressure having to follow Kamada. Yet, despite this, they ended up rising above it, creating something with enough distinct quirks to be special whilst keeping in mind what makes the show great. Storyboarded by Shokugeki no Soma and the Tiger and Bunny Films' Yoshitomo Yonatani, seen here in a cool hat, the second episode really stood out thanks to interesting shots like this, with a unique determined walk cycle through an endless corridor as their manner gets more and more desperate. And that wasn't the only expressive thing about this episode. Even though Mob remains straight-faced, the effects animation he emits demonstrates a level of power and confidence that his demeanour doesn't let on. Smoke, lightning, sonic booms, a Mob Psycho battle is one of surreal demonstrations of extreme power. And demonstrations of power are entirely within Mob Psycho's forte. With Mob Psycho, we were formally introduced to the brush paint enthusiast and young animator Yuki Igirashi. Here's a bit of his independent work. That is fantastic, but his actual Mob Psycho stuff takes things to a whole new level. A display of force that is as rough as it is impactful. At times it almost feels like Igarashi is experimenting with Mob Psycho, and there's no better example than this cut from episode 12. Igarashi is credited for 4 different episodes of the show, but it was this that felt like it was really him going all out. Supervised by Yoshimichi Kamada and inspired by Yutaka Nakamura, you can see how each impact is delivered in an interesting way. Deformations, short blasts of effects animation and impact frames. Even the camera itself seems determined to lose us in the action as it struggles to keep up with them. This was a highlight of the show itself, and it was brought to us by someone whose previous claim to fame was in calligraphy. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and where there's an apprentice, there's a master. Meet Yutaka Nakamura. The master of all trades, Yutaka Nakamura, is someone who has tried everything and produced a phenomenal product with each attempt across the years. He is the man that turns episodes from good to amazing with his creative displays of action that have inspired many animators, including Yuki Igarashi. With his trademark Utapon cubes, he has redefined the meaning of impact with a type of debris that could only ever resonate within animation. Nakamura key animated 2 cuts within Mob Psycho, one in episode 8 and one in episode 12. And my favourite thing about Nakamura action is how he adds so much complexity to what most would consider fairly basic actions. The guy's been animating for decades and he's constantly reinventing himself and trying out new things. Cycling back a few episodes, I want to talk about the mystery animator Sara Moriyuki. With no discernible career path apart from this moment that was credited to them in Giovanni's Island, Moriyuki remains one of Mob Psycho's greatest production mysteries. And they're not just an animator who did a bit of work or a small scene, Moriyuki key animated the entirety of episode 4 by themselves. It's quite possible that it's used as a pen name for a veteran animator, but it really could be anyone. But until they're unmasked, what we can say is that it's an impressive episode. Solo key animation projects are hard. You're having to do an entire 20 minutes of animation towards a deadline, and everything in that episode is your responsibility. So naturally there's going to be still frames to break things up, but Moriyuki more than makes up for this with clever shot composition, body contortionism, and cuts like this. Plus, you might have noticed that in order to develop Tereki as an unnerved guy, his shadows are sketchy and ill-defined. What would usually be left to the finishing department becomes animation in itself. Creativity is the lifeblood of Mob Psycho, and whilst I spoke about Mio Sato in the first part, it's worth catching up on her recent contributions. For a recap, when director Yuzuru Tachikawa was planning the project, he wanted to make it something special. He wanted to show visual ideas that haven't yet been seen in anime. And as a part of that, he put out a call for those versed in paint on glass animation, to which Mio Sato replied. Not only did she animate the opening, but she adapted scenes in creative ways, one of the highlights being this cut of Mob drinking spoiled milk. The ability of paint on glass animation and Sato's own creativity allowed for impressive transitions that seemed to capture despair in such an interesting way as we see the paint being moved around viciously. There's so much to talk about in regards to Mob Psycho, from its animation talent to the impact it will have on creative approaches within the medium. But in the interest of your time and mine, here are some other great moments from Mob Psycho 100. Hakyugo is a brilliant new animator whose presence we've been enjoying on this season's Flip Flappers, but one of the best cuts he did this year was on Mob Psycho, echoing the sort of action that Yutaka Nakamura has become known for. And that's what I love about this new generation, animators around my age bursting into the industry, looking around and responding with, yeah, I'll give it a go. Nobody starts out great, but ambition is what drives these people, and in doing so, Hakyugo became the star of Mob Psycho's 11th episode. Animators Kazuto Arai and Miso teamed up to become stars of Mob Psycho episodes 3 and 10. Two people who have proven themselves with detailed effects animation decided to take on two scenes that really needed experts. Firstly, in episode 3, Arai worked on Dimple firing a beam out of his mouth, and one of the things that we can interpret from that is that, well, it's really strong, it's a powerful beam. But that isn't just represented by how wide it is, but also this fantastic set of frames before the blast, really building it up. Miso then followed this up with some fantastic camera work as he flies through the sky and launches a counterattack. The duo return in episode 10, this time dealing with a scene in which Tereki must deal with Miyagawa's ferocious fire assault. Interpreting the fire as a rapid wave of liquid, Arai takes point once again, complete with sparks and a ferocious intensity that can only be demonstrated with extra line work and an attention to detail. And you can clearly see where it switches over from Arai to Miso as the style of the flames change, this time focusing on the shape of the fire and how it flickers erratically. Mob Psycho was one of the best anime of 2016, not only dealing with ideas of individuality and our own self-images, but displaying that through new styles and ideas within animation. It's not a show that will be forgotten after just a year, and it's something that I know that I can constantly refer back to as an example of some of my favourite animators' best works. Thanks for watching the Canipa Effect, and if you want to support upcoming animators like some of these that worked on Mob Psycho, the MPO Animator Supporters Project is having a second run within 2016 to make up for not making their goal earlier this year. That link is in the description, and this is the last video of the year, and I hope you have a happy holidays, and we'll be starting up 2017 with a much anticipated studio spotlight.